This conference will now be recorded.
So in last class, we have seen about your transport of your copies and what is meant by the transport of your copy. And we have seen how to create a transport of copy, the steps to add the objects in the transport of your copies, and then how to release the transport of your copies. And then we have seen what are the automatic tools that are available in SAP to create the transport. So in real time, for some companies, it is not allowed to create the transports from SE09. So in SE09, if I provided an access to SE09, you can just go ahead and create your TR however you want. But in order to track why we have created this TR, what is the purpose behind for creating of this TR and everything. So in order to do that, so these automatic tools will help us to do those things. The automatic tools which I told you yesterday are your SAP Charm, SAP Solution Manager, and the RevTrack. RevTrack. So these are the three automatic tools that has been available by SAP. By SAP. So these are the tools that are belongs to SAP. So but there are some different third party tools that are available in the market to create the transports. But if I take this SAP Charm and SAP Solution Manager, Charm and SAP Solution Manager are a are a separate systems, like how you are seeing your development quality and production. In the same way you will be seeing the solution manager, development system, quality system, and the production system. So Charm is part of your solution manager. So one part of your solution manager is Charm. So in solution manager, we can create the transports. In Solman, we can create the transports, and we can also store the documents like your I told you in your second class, the TUT document, TUT, FUT, UAT, all these documents you can able to store in your Solman. So for this, you will be having an user ID and password where you have to go ahead and upload this. But if you are only just using for creating of this TR, then that we will be calling it as SAP Charm. SAP Charm. So these are the things, but these are separate systems. But RevTrack is an inbuilt in SAP, inbuilt in SAP. So you have to add this component. We need to add this component. We need to add this component. That's it. We have to add this component. Once you get added this, we will be making some modifications. We will make some modifications or some changes. We'll make some changes less modifications as per our requirement. As per our requirement. So this is called as a RevTrack, and these are the automatic tools that are available. That are available now. So in today's class, we are going to start it with a new concept called as ABAP dictionary, or I can say this as the data dictionary, or we can call it as here DDICs. DDICs. So here the D stands for your data and the DIC stands for your dictionary. DIC stands for your dictionary. So this we are going to start it with our today's session. Now ABAP dictionary. So ABAP dictionary. So it's a place where, let me add that in the bulletin points. It's a place where we will create we will create the database. It's a place where we will create a database, or it's a GUI tool, or I can say it's a GUI tool which where we will be creating the database, and where the user will enter the data, where we'll be creating the database, and where the user will enter the data. It's a tool. So that means it's a graphical tool, like it's a user interface. We just need to provide the inputs. So that means it we need to provide the inputs. SAP will write the backend code. SAP will write the backend code to store, to create that table, to create that table in the database. In the database, the existing database, it has to create the table that will be taken care by your SAP. We will never write a code for creating of a table in SAP. The creating of a table is a graphical user interface. The creating of a database is a graphical user interface. GUI stands for, G stands for graphical, U stands for user, and I stands for your interface. So the tool, so like this, we do have so many tools that are provided by SAP. So we just need to provide the inputs. SAP will go ahead and write the corresponding code for it. SAP will go ahead and write the corresponding code for it. So now the transaction code, the T code for for DDIC is SE11 and SE12, whereas SE11 will mainly used for change, create slash change slash create slash change slash display slash delete and copy. So you can create it, you can change the existing things, you can display the existing things, you can delete the existing things, and with the help of existing things you can copy and you can create your own things. You can create your own things, whereas SE12 is only used for your display purpose. Display purpose. That means only the display is possible in the help with the help of your SE12 and SE11. So just give me 1 minute. Yeah, just give me 1 minute. I'll just log on to my remote desktop connection. One second. Yeah, sorry for that, guys. So now see here. So if I go to SE11, so you will be having your delete button, your copy button, create button, change button, and display button. Now, whereas if I go to SE12, you will be having only your display button. You will be having only your display button. What are the things we can go ahead and create with the help of your data dictionary? What are the sub-objects, sub-objects we can create under the data dictionary? Under your data dictionary, what are the things? The first one is your database tables. The second one is the database views. The third one is, or you can also call it as views. The third one is your data types. The fourth one is what is the fourth one? So the type group, the type group. The fifth one is the domains. The sixth one is the lock objects. The seventh one is your search helps. Your search helps. So these are the things that you are creating. So in real time, 99% or 95% we will be working on the database tables. 95% we will always work on the database tables, and remaining 5% we will be working on these things. Remaining 5% we will be working on these things. Apart from, majorly we will only working on your database tables. So what is meant by this database tables? So this is the place where where we will create the table. So, or else I will be saying like this. So this is the central component, or this is correct. This is the central component, the central component where we will store the entire data, the entire data. The entire data will be get stored in the form of your tables. Always remember that the entire data will be get stored in the form of your tables. All whatever the data which we are trying to store, whether you are creating an order or whether you are creating a delivery or whether you are doing an invoice, any type of a things what you are doing, so it will comes under your database tables. So a database table consists of rows and columns. A database table consists of rows and columns. In SAP terminology, we will be calling it as the header plus data. The header. If I open my Excel sheet, if I open my Excel, now you can see here. So in the first row, you will be having your header details, right? Which details you want to add, like your serial number, name, the mobile number, like this. So the mobile number and email id, like this you will be having, and from second record onwards you will be entering into your data. So this we will be calling it as header, and whatever the values we are going to add is called as your data. So a table is consisting of data plus header, or I can say this as the header we will be calling it as the column fields, column fields. The header we can call it as the column fields, whatever the fields of that particular table, whatever the columns of that particular table. So the column fields plus whatever the data we are going to add is comes under your table. So as an ABAPer, as an ABAPer, ABAPer, we will create the database, we will create the column headers or column fields or header. So our responsibility is to create the header of the table, header of the table. So what are the things? So what is the type of the data we want to add? what is the type of the data we want to add, and what is the length we need, what is the length we need to add, will be tell by. So these are the two things which we are going to do it along with the description of the column, along with the description of your column. Now these are the three things which we are going to see as part of the what type of a data we want to add, what is the length we need to add, and description of the column is we are going to provide. So the above three things are called as the properties of the field. The above details are called as the properties of the field, the properties of your field. So this is what, so this we are going to create it. Once we create this, so we will be providing this to your, we will be providing these details to the user, so that user can go ahead and add the data into the database tables, the data into your database tables. Now coming to the database views, or I can say this as the views. The views, simple terminology, view. A view is nothing but clubbing of, or joining of two or more tables, two or more tables to see the data of those joined table, or to maintain the data, of those joined table, joining of two or more tables to see the data or to maintain the data. That means if I have two tables and I want to maintain the data of two tables, so you go ahead and create a view and you can start maintaining the data of those two tables. So this is called as a views. In this we do have different types of views that we will be going to see in depth when we starting it with your views. Now coming to your data types. So the data types again categorized into three things. One is your data elements, the second one is your structures, and the third one is your the table type, the table type. Now what is meant by this data element? So whatever the properties which we are keeping, so you can keep that properties in a data element to store the properties of the field, to store the properties of the field, and we can use this at multiple places, multiple tables. So that means the main purpose of creating the data element is, the main purpose of creating the data element is reusability. The main purpose of creating the data element is reusability. So we can use that in multiple tables. So the same data element, the same properties, if I want to use at multiple places, we will go ahead and create a data element, and we will be using that data element wherever you want. And coming to the structure, so table is a collection of fields plus data. So table is a collection of fields, the column fields plus data, whereas structure is a collection of fields. The structure is a collection of fields. It can't able to accommodate data, it can't able to store the data, it's just collection of fields. And we can use the structures in multiple database tables, multiple database tables. So for example, let's take this. So I have three tables. So this is my table 1, this is my table 2, and this is my table 3, where I have three common fields. I have three common fields. Field 1, field 2, and field 3 are common in all these strings. Field 1, field 2, and field 3 are common. So now what I will do, instead of maintaining it for multiple times, I will go ahead and create a structure. I will go ahead and create a structure with holding these three fields, holding these three fields, and I can pass this to my multiple tables, to my multiple tables. I can pass this to my multiple tables. So automatically these three fields will be gets added to your table 1, table 2, and your table 3. So automatically the fields will be gets added to your table 1, table 2, and table 3. So this is called as your structure. So the main purpose of the structure is again your reusability. The main purpose of the structure is again your reusability. How to add the structures to your database table? So that we will be seeing in your upcoming sessions. Don't worry about that. So table type. So this I will cover when we started with ALVs, or I can cover with function modules. When we start with ALVs or function modules, then I'm going to cover with your table types. Now type group, the same way during the ALV, during the ALV, we are going to see this. We are going to see this. Now, coming to your domain. So, domain will also store the properties of the field. Then you can ask me the difference between your data element, your domain. Domain will store uh, the semantic properties of your field. Why we will be calling it as semantic? So by default in SAP, or by default SAP will store the data will store the data in uppercase letters. So that means the capital letters, uppercase letters, and the positive values, uppercase letters and the positive values. If I need to store in lowercase or the negative values, the negative values, then we need to create a domain. We need to create a domain. So this is the main important. So that configuration is not available in your data element. In order to do this, we have to go ahead and create your domain, and we can use the domains. We can use the domains in multiple data elements. Multiple data elements. That means the main purpose is again your reusability. The main purpose is again your reusability. So along with this, we can also store some fixed values. We can also store some fixed values. So what is this fixed values? So whatever the values that user can enter on that particular field, only the allowed values, I would say only the allowed values when they are entering the data, whatever the values. For example, if you take gender, so what are the three things? Male, female, and trans. So these are the three values that you can able to pass. Apart from this, if I want to pass any other thing, system will throw you an error. So that means, so when we can store some fixed values which will do the validation on the data what user is entering on that field. on that field. Now, how many fixed values you can add? The maximum fixed values, the max fixed values we can enter are 16 to 20. So 20 is the max. So this in HANA I have seen 20, but in ECC the maximum values are 16 only. So that's the reason I have keep it as 16 to 20. Now you can ask me if my fixed values are greater than 20, greater than 20, then then how I need to do the validation, how I need to do how I need to do how I need to do the validation on the data. So for this we will create a separate table and we will add the table as a value table. We will add the table as the value table in the mm, in the domain now when the user is trying to enter the data, it will go ahead and check this value table. It will go ahead and check this value table if the record is available or not. If the record is available or not, it will go ahead and check the data. It will go ahead and check the data in that value table. So this is the main purpose of creating your domain. The data validations can only be happened from your domain along with the field properties. So for this reason, we will always say, always 90% or 95% for every nine in 95% of the scenarios for every table field, we will create the data element and we will and the domain. So and the domain. So for every table field, we will be creating your data element and your domain. So this is what. Now next see the lock objects. What is meant by this lock objects? To prevent the user, to prevent multiple users, multiple users to prevent adding adding the data by multiple users at the same time. Now when I'm trying to add the data, you should not add it, or when I'm trying to add the data, the other person should not add it. How can you do that? So with the help of your lock objects. So this topic we will be covering with in the function modules. So when we are dealing with the function modules, then we are going to cover this. So search helps are nothing but your input help, or I can say this as your F4 help. F4 is not F plus 4, it's a function key F4. So now, so what data? So we are providing the hints to the user to we are providing the hints to the user which data is allowed, in this particular field, or else I will say in that field. So that will be configured via your search helps. So these are the things which we are going to create as part of your data dictionary. These are the things that we are going to create as part of your data dictionary. Now let's take an example. Now let's see a real-time scenario. So now my requirement is I want to create the database for for an for an software institute, for an software institute. I want to create a database for the software institute. So now, so you have to understand, so what are the details that are needed for a software institute and what are the fields that are required. So what are the details? So to run a software institute, what are the things I required? Can someone can tell me, either Venkatesh or Sachin? So can someone can tell me, to run a software institute, what are the details we needed? What are the details? So think from the institute point standpoint and think from the customer standpoint. The customer standpoint. So what are the things? What are the requirements? So the first thing is the employee details. Employee details. So whatever the employees, so what so this is from the company standpoints. So if I want to run a software institute, I need trainers who can help me to train those software courses, right? I need a trainers who can help me in training those software courses. So those are all my employees of that organization or employees of that institute. Now, what are the basic details that are required? So let me go ahead and create this one. What I will do, I'll just say this as the, sorry. So let's take this as your SR Trainings Institute. SR Training Institute. SR Training Institute. Now, in this SR Training Institute, so the first thing is we required the employee table. Employee table. So in this employee table, what are the details you needed? Can someone can tell me what are the details you required for an employee? For an employee details, what are the details you required? Can someone can tell me? Tell me guys, what are the details you needed? Please speak up. Guys, please speak up. What are the details we required for an employee? So the first and the foremost thing is for every employee ID, for every employee we require an employee ID. Then we'll go ahead and see the employee first name. So what is the name? The first name. The employee last name. The employee last name. Then we are going to see something called as your employee gender, whether he is a male or a female. Employee gender. And the next one is we are going to see something called as here employee mobile number or employee designation. So there are so many people other than your trainers, like your front office team, your server department team, your cleaning session team people will be there. And like this, you will be having so many employees. So employee designation and then employee mobile number mobile number and then employee email ID. So these are the major details or the basic details which we needed. These are your basic details which we needed to run the show, to run our employee, to maintain our employee data. So these details we will be creating. So our requirement is like this, we need to create it. So now in this, the data is going to be added by your people, by the users of that SR training, with the users of that SR training. So now the second one. So once you have got your employees, so we need something called as your course details. We need something called as your courses. Course details. What are the courses that we required? So what are the courses? So I'm going to say this as serial number, the name of the course, the duration, the duration of the course, and then the amount, and then the currency key. The currency key. What is the currency key? Whether it is belongs to INR or whether it is belongs to USD dollars, like that. And then you can add your trainer details to trainer first name, last name, and trainer mobile number, employee first name, last name, and employee mobile number and employee email ID. So these are the details which I can add in my course table. In my course table. So these are the details, major details which can I add. So now here the data will be gets added by your function or by your business users. So like this, you will be having your student details also. The student details. Student details. So what are the things? So the student roll number, the student ID, the student ID, the student F name, first name, the student last name, the student gender, student gender, and sorry, type of mistake, student gender, and then student mobile number, student email ID, and then student registered course, and then the student the employee first name last name, whoever is the employee belongs to that particular student, whoever is the employee belongs to that particular student. Okay, so now these are the details which I needed in case of my student table. These are the details. Now these details we have to create that in our SAP system. So now this is what your table is. This is what your database is. Along with that, you can add your amount details. So that's the student payment related details, when he has paid, how much amount he has paid, what is the amount that is finalized to him, and what is the initial payment he has done, and what is the pending payment he is. What is the pending payment? All these things. So like this, you can go ahead and store one more table. Like this we can store one more table. So like this we can store the data in multiple tables. Like this we can store the data in multiple tables. So you can go ahead and create so many tables, even the employee salary details tables, or the employee wages related tables. So what is the employee trainer share? So in the institute you will be having a trainer share. So in that trainer share, how much we have provided, how much we have received, and how much we have provided to the trainer, and what is your balance amount. What is the balance amount? Everything we can maintain the data, everything we can go ahead and maintain the data. So like this we can go ahead and do everything, the employee the everything in your database. So in SAP also, based upon your modules or application area specific, you will be having a number of tables a number of tables, so many number of tables you will be having. So we will be seeing almost like 70 to 80 tables in as part of our course. So how to use those tables, how to get the data from those tables, how to add the data into those tables, all those things we are going to see as part of our course. So this is all about your table. This is all about your table. Now, so now we will see how to. Now, the first thing is your database tables. So this is a place where this is a central repository where this is a central repository where the entire data will store. The entire data will get stored. The data will be stored in the form of your tables. Now, What are the steps to create your database tables? Steps to create the database table. I'm just going to write that in a shortcut forms. What are the steps? So the first and the foremost is, so go to the transaction code, go to the T code SE11, go to the T code SE11, and then select the radio button, database tables. Select the radio button, the database tables, and click on and the provide the name of the database table as per the naming standards. As per the as per the naming standards. So once, what are the naming standard? The naming standard is the allowed standard usually we will follow in real time is, it will starts with zt hyphen your application area, for which application area, or I can say this as your module module name module name followed by your description, followed by your description. This is the standard we will allowed in your database. This is the standard we will be allowing in your database. Okay, so now, so once you provide this and click on create, click on create, click on create. Now, so in this database table, so we will be seeing what are the mandatory details we need to provide. What are the mandatory details we need to provide? The first and the foremost is the description of the table. The description of the table. The first thing is, and then we need to provide the delivery class. The delivery class. So this will tell us what is, what type of the table, what type of the table we are going to create in SAP. What type of the table we are going to create in SAP? What type of a table we are going to create? Now, the third thing is, so this is what. So what type of a table we are going to create in SAP will be determined by your delivery class. In SAP, we do have multiple tables that we are going to see that in your tomorrow's session. And the next one is data browser, slash table view maintenance. So this will tell us who has an access to maintain the data, maintain the data, and who has an access to display the data. We can provide the restrictions. We can provide the restrictions over here. So these are the things. Next, the fields. The fields are the columns of the database tables. The columns of your database tables are nothing but your fields. And then we are going to provide something called as your technical settings. The technical settings of the table. So this means where we want to store the table, where we want to store the table, and and what is the amount we want to provide, what is the amount of memory we need to add to the table, we need to add to the table. So that will be provided by your, that will be provided by your technical settings, that will be provided by your technical settings. Okay, so now, so in this, that we do have subcategories like your data class, the size category, and the buffering, and your log data changes. The log data changes. And these are your mandatory fields. Along with that, we need to provide something called as your primary key field, primary key field, primary key field, and the initialization. So the primary key field and your initialization. So these are all your mandatory fields. Now, next, what are the optionals? Optionals we need to do. We need to do. So this, as per your requirement, you're going to do it as per your requirement. So once these mandatory things have been provided, you can just go ahead and activate your table. I'll say like this: once all the mandatory details are provided, we can go ahead and activate the table by providing the package and the tr and the tr by providing the package and the tr, we can provide all your we can activate your table. Remember that in SAP, if you want to use anything, note, in SAP, if we want to use any object, if you want to use, or if you want to see the output of your report, or if you want to use the database tables, or if you want to use your data elements or structures, so everything must be in active status. So if you want to use the object, the object must be active status. The object must be active status. Then only you can able to use this. Then only you can able to use this, or else you can't able to use this. Now, what are the optional things we need to provide? This, as per the business requirement, we are going to do this. So just give me another 5 minutes. As per the business requirements, we are going to do this. What are the things? The first and the foremost thing is your table maintenance generator. The maintenance generator. So in real time, we will be calling this as your TMG. We'll be calling this as your TMG. So this is one most important things which we are going to deal with, and then we are going to see something called as your foreign key relationship. Foreign key relationship. Foreign key relationship. And then we are going to see something called as your search help, your search help and your index, your search help and your index. So these are the main four different optional things that we are going to see as part of this thing. So once this is completed, your entire database table is gets completed. And yeah, and when we are dealing with your search help, so when we are dealing with the search help, then I'm going to come back. So it will be a zigzag format. So when we are creating the tables, so because the structures we will be using in the tables, the domains we will be using in the data elements, the data elements again we will be using in your tables itself. So while we are creating the table, I'm going to tell you about your data elements, I'm going to tell you about your domains, I'm going to tell you about your structures, I'm going to tell you about your search helps. All these are interlinked topics. All these are your interlinked topics. Okay. So this is what we are going to see in your upcoming classes. So in tomorrow's class, which is going to be held at 8 o'clock in the morning, to 9:30, I would say. So 1.5 hour session for tomorrow, just for tomorrow, 1.5 hour session. So 8:30 to 9:30, we are going to see what is the delivery class and what is the technical settings. What is the technical settings and what is your data browser slash table view maintenance. And then we are going to see the fields. So what is your data element and what is your domain. So in tomorrow's class, so we are going to see what is the delivery class. What is a delivery class and what is the data browser slash table view maintenance. What is the data browser slash table view maintenance? And then we are going to see something called as your technical settings. Technical settings. In that we are going to see the first and the foremost thing is your data class, the size category, size category, the buffering and your log data changes. The log data changes. Out of this buffering, I'll be telling you that at a later point of time, the log data changes. So the buffering I'll be dealing with at a later point of time. And then we are going to see about your fields. So what is meant by your predefined type? The predefined type. And then we are going to see what is data element. What is the data element? And then we are going to see the steps to create the data element, and then we are going to see the domain. So in that we are going to see what is a domain, and the steps to create the domain, your domain. So these are the things which we are going to see in your tomorrow's session. So tomorrow it will be a 1.5 hour session from 8 o'clock to 9:30. 8 o'clock to 9:30. So please join the session and try to do it. And from Monday onwards, you will be clubbing with all the rest of the team, and we will be continuing with our course. So that's the end of today's session. Before I signing off for today's session, any other questions? So Sachin and Venkatesh, any questions?
No, Ravi.
Okay, I'll be considering it as no questions, and we'll meet you tomorrow at the same time and we'll continue the class. Only for this weekend, as I told you, you will be having a class on you will be having the classes. From next week onwards, it's always be a Monday to Friday session only. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all for today, and we'll meet you tomorrow. Happy weekend. Have a nice day ahead. Thank you
Yeah,
all.
same to you. Same to you.